Hey guys, in our last video we sculpted this ZBrush character, and in this video let's go ahead and see if we can turn him into why don't we go ahead and unwrap him here in ZBrush. So usually I unwrap my characters in Maya, but maybe it would be good practice just for fun to unwrap this guy here in ZBrush. So to do that, what I would usually do is make sure that all of the elements that we sculpted, if we want to have one texture sheet, one UV map, we want to make sure that all four of these elements are merged together. Right now they're completely separate. So how do we do this? Let's go ahead and start from the let's go over each one and kind of take a look and see what we have before we merge them together, right? So let's talk about this. If I click on my top, and I guess I could rename them, but it doesn't really matter because we're about to merge the layers anyways. If I click on the top one, right, the skin one, I can see that I have 6 subdivisions currently. So I have my lowest one, and I can turn on my polyframe, and you can see that includes the body and the legs, right? So we have the lowest one is the one that we just got as the default base mesh, and we sort of didn't really do much to the actual topology, right? So that's fine. And then what we've done is we subdivided it to level 6, and that gave us this great detail because we have a lot of polygons, right? So essentially what we want to do is we want to use the low frame for the game engine and use the high one to bake into the low as the normal map. So the normal map would be applied over this low one and give the illusion of it looking, having all this detail. Alright, so one important thing to realize is that you want to pay attention to the subdivision levels number. So right now we're at number 6 for the skin, and that's going to be important when we merge them all, right? Let's go ahead and go to the belt. So the belt is on mine is also on level 6. On yours it's probably on level 1 or 2. Make sure that you actually have this subdivided. Make sure you press this button, subdivided to level 6. You want to make sure the subdivision level is exactly the same as the layer before, right? So you have 6 for the skin, you have 6 for the belt, and I also have 6 for the boots. So make sure you have 6 subdivision levels for the boots. And if you turn off your polyframe, you can see that all the detail is sculpted here. I think we did it on level 5. I just added one more, but 1 is going to be our low poly, and then 6 will be our high one. And then of course the eyeballs. So I just subdivided my eyeballs 6 times as well. But before we do that, let me show you what I did. So I'm going to actually delete my I'm going to start over. I'm going to delete my lower one, and right now I have this really high one with 518,000 points, right? So what do? We need to make sure that we go to zRemesher under geometry, and let's go ahead and set our target to like 1, and I'm going to turn the adapt off. I don't really need it, and I'm just going to say zRemesh. So all I did is I set my target to 1, which is 1,000 points, and I'm gonna press zRemesh. And if we wanted to see what's happening, we could turn on our polyframe, and let's press F so we can see that right now it's really press F again, really dense, right? So if I press zRemesh, it's going to retopologize my eyeballs, and I have active symmetry on, so it's going to do both of them. and let's see what it gives us. We went from 518 points to 1800, right? So for the eyeballs, it's still, at least for me, it feels like it's still a little too heavy. I'm gonna do half and do Z remesh again, and maybe one more time. Yeah, so something like this is good. Now keep in mind, in ZBrush, ZBrush doesn't really have smooth edges, right? So when we bring this into like Maya or Substance Painter, this is going to be a lot more round because both Substance Painter and Maya have smooth edges. ZBrush does not, and that's why the previous kind of a blocky looking. But it's actually, I'm looking at the topology. It's going to give us pretty much a perfect circle, which is great. So again, the next step is to make sure that your subdivision level matches all the other ones. So as you remember, these three have 6 subdivision levels. Our eyeballs only have 1 right now, so I'm going to go ahead and press this 5 times. So I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now it's back up to almost, you know, what it was before, but now I have the slider with 6 levels. Great. So the next step would be to combine all of these. Now, since we know they have the same subdivision levels, we can combine them all into one object. So let's go ahead and turn off our polyframe, press F on our keyboard, and if we hold on the shift key, just bring all of this stuff up. And let's do the actual merge. So I'm going to go ahead and go to merge, and I'm going to do this button here called merge visible, right? So I'm going to click on that. All right, so this took a while on my end. It took 11 seconds. And now if I go into the newly created merged character, I can see that all my layers are gone and I just have one. And the cool thing about this is that all of our elements are not combined into one, they're merged into one layer. But if you come down here under geometry, and by the way, you can have multiple panels open like I do by simply, if one of them is closed, you can hold on the shift key, and open one, and then you can have multiple open. So right now I have the geometry open and subtools open at the same time. So I just, I use shift to open this. Now what I want to show you is that now the subdivision level, you can see you have a slider, and the slider will go back to 1, and you can see that if we turn this on, right, every single one of our pieces is on level 1, and then if we go back up, every single one of our pieces has all this great detail on level 6, right? So that is one of the things that we needed to do in order to create one UV map. Okay, so what do we do next? Next, let's go ahead and unwrap this character. And to do that, what we want to do is go to Z plugin, and let's use something called not Subtool Master. We want to use UV Master, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say work on clone. That's the first button I'm going to press. And the reason I want to say work on clone is because when you have multiple subdivision levels, UV Master cannot unwrap automatically your character with different levels. As soon as you say work on clone, it's going to go to the very bottom, the first subdivision level, and create a copy of this guy without all the subdivision levels. So that's one of the tricks, right? So I'm going to say work on clone, and as soon as I do that, ZBrush created this clone, and maybe we can lower this, change this material so it's not so bright. And you can see that there's a in the tool here, there's been added something called CL_merged. So this is a clone of our merged one, but you can see that the subdivision levels are completely gone, right? So what this is going to allow us to do is now press this button called unwrap, which will take each element and unwrap it. So let's go ahead and leave symmetry on, and We can also do auto groups if we wanted to. That doesn't really do anything, but the auto groups button is located under, where is it? Under polygroups. So the reason I press that is because you can see that when you press it, it's actually assigning a different color to different part of the mesh, right? So I'm not sure if this is going to help us or not, but I just want to make sure that all of these are different polygroups. Now, so we can go ahead and press this on, and let's go ahead and do unwrap. So I'm going to press this button here and see what zBrush has done. It unwrapped 6 islands. Let's take a look. If we click on flatten, we can see how it was unwrapped. So here are our boots, these are the eyeballs, the belt, and the entire body was done as one big piece. Almost like a, you know, those furs you see on the floor of the bear or a tiger. Looks like the head is here and you got the arms, and these look like the legs. So you could go with this, or maybe we can make it a little better. Maybe we can create more polygroups. So let's go ahead and say unflatten, and I would really like to have certain of these to be their own pieces. So for example, maybe I'm gonna hold down Control and Shift and click on this boot, and I'm gonna click on it again to hide it, then click on this one. I'm gonna click on the belt, and what I would like to do now is hold down the Control key, and let's go ahead and go into orthographic view. Hold on the Control key and just drag a selection around the waist here. So all of this here, I would like this to be a different polygroup. So I'm going to do Control W to assign a different color to it. And let's go ahead and turn this active symmetry on, and maybe let's also do that to our wrists here. So I'm going to select, let's not undo this, select my wrists, and if I'm not getting a good angle, like I'm clearly not, another thing we could do is hold on Control key and go into our tools here. Maybe let's grab something like the lasso tool, and holding the Control key, maybe I can make a better selection of my wrist. And now you can see it did it on both sides because my active symmetry is on. So now I can do Control W. All right. So that's going to be its own separate island. And maybe another thing we can do is kind of do the same thing with the head. I would like the head to be its own piece as well. So I'm going to do Control W. Alright. And now if I hold on Control Shift and click anywhere in the empty space, I can bring everything back. And now you can see I just have a lot more polygroups, right? So let's try this one more time. I'm going to leave polygroups on, symmetries on, and I'm going to do unwrap. Alright, once it's done, let's go to flatten and take a look. So this looks a little better to me. Now at least you have different pieces. And here's the hands, right? So it looks a little better distributed. I think this should work for us in Substance Painter. So let's go ahead and do unflatten, and now what we want to do is we want to grab these unwrapped UVs and copy them over onto our actual character with with all the details sculpted, right? So how do we do that? To do that, you want to click on this button called Copy UVs. So I'm going to copy it from the clone, go onto my fully merged, fully detailed one, which is this guy, right? And now what you want to do is just simply do a paste. So as soon as you've done that, it's going to take a moment, okay? But now the cool thing is that this character with all the subdivision levels has those UVs mapped on here, right? So now what we could do is we can actually create a normal map for this entire character based on our new UVs that we just pasted in. So to do that, you must dial this down to subdivision level 1, and then what you want to do is go down to your normal map, and let's go ahead and say create normal map. So I'm just going to click this button here, and then top left you can see ZBrush is creating our normal map. And if we hover over, we can see what it's done, right? So that's our normal map. It has all the detail with all the cracks and folds and everything that we created. So the next thing we need to do is let's see if we can export this out into Substance Painter. Let's bring this whole character into Substance Painter, just see if we can apply this normal map in Substance Painter, and then just maybe begin painting there as our next video, right? So to do that, you want to click this button here called Clone Normal Map. As soon as you click on it, watch what happens to your texture. It brought it over there, right? So that's kind of cool. And the next thing you want to do is, let's go to our preferences. I'm going to go to Import Export. I'm going to go to Export, and I'm going to turn off groups, because I don't really want my poly groups being exported in the OBJ file. So I'm going to turn this off. And the next thing I want to do is, let's go ahead and just export this out. So I'm going to say Export, and I'm going to select OBJ for my Substance Painter, and I'm going to say Save. Okay. And the only other thing that I want to grab from here for now is the normal map. So how do we export out the normal map? We should be able to simply go to Texture, and let's go ahead and flip our map vertically, because ZBrush always has the normal map flipped. So I'm going to make sure I flip it over just like that. And now I should be able to just simply go to Export, and let's go ahead and export it as a JPG, but I'm going to call this normal map Rockman, and I'm fine with it being a JPG. So I'm going to say Save. Okay, and here's the preview of our normal map. I'm happy with this. I'm going to say OK. Now let's jump into Substance Painter and see how he's looking inside Substance Painter. All right, so here I am on Substance Painter. I'm going to File, New, and let's go ahead and set our resolution to maybe 2K. And I want to make sure that my unwrap is off. I'm already our character is already unwrapped, right? And let's go ahead and say Select. Navigate to our OBJ file and grab the OBJ file, and I'm just going to say OK. Alright, so here is our character in Substance Painter. So the very first thing I like to personally do is come here, turn on my shadows, and I like to dial this down to maybe like 20, just something I like to do. I also like to turn on my anti-alias and maybe change the lighting. All right, great. So the other thing that we need to do is, let's go ahead and bake this. So I'm going to do a bake mesh maps and set this to 2K, and I'm just going to go ahead and leave everything as is, maybe change anti-alias to 2 and just do a bake. Alright, so here it is. We can clean this up if we needed to, but it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and, actually, I'm not sure why my panels moved around, but let's just bring in the normal map, and I just want to see before I end this video how the normal map from ZBrush looks inside here. So I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to grab my map, and I'm going to set this to a texture, and let's go ahead and do this project. I haven't named it yet. I'm going to just say import, and then what I'm going to do is go to my layers, and let's go ahead and add a new paint layer, and just simply grab our normal map and just drag it into the normal slot here. Alright, so we can see how it's looking. So you can see that we were able to bring our ZBrush work right into Substance Painter, and you can see all the folds are here. The detail that was sculpted with the skin is here, and it's looking pretty cool. So the next in the next video, let's maybe clean this up a little bit. If we needed to, we can take a look and begin just do a quick simple paint of this character. Alright, so the only last thing I would like to mention is I can see if I zoom in a little more and run the light, you can see that it looks like some of the lines are popping out instead of going in. So that's just a color space issue between ZBrush and Substance Painter. So in the normal map here, you have a little drop down. You could go to color space and instead of auto, you could say OpenGL normal, and you can see as soon as you click on it, these flip, and now they look more like they're actually going in instead of popping out. So quick little tip there. Alright, so thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you next video.